Hungary won, France won. A massive, massive point for the Hungarians. A disappointing afternoon for France. The group of death blown wide open. In just over an hour's time, it is Germany versus Portugal. And the Portuguese have an opportunity to put themselves top of that table. It's bad news for the English game as well, because England is still tipped to beat the Czechs, and finish top of their group. And if France end up finishing second, it will be a last 16 tie. It will be a last 16 tie between France and England if everything goes according to plan for Portugal, France, and England from this point. A massive shout out has to be given, though. A massive, massive shout out has to be given to Hungary. They were excellent to a man in that game this afternoon. Defended well. They attacked when they needed to. And you know what? 2 games in, they only have 1 point, but they've been very, very good. They, I think, are written off being in that group with Germany, Portugal, and France, but they've stepped up and they've said, we're not going away shy. We're not going to be going to go away shyly. That Puskas Arena, absolutely amazing noise and atmosphere. The 12th man was there. Their fans were behind them. Very passionate crowd. Very, a very passionate crowd. Very aggressive, very assertive crowd, really getting behind their team. They made it difficult for France today, who had the better play, but the final ball was often wrong. Benzema, what's he had? It feels like he's had 100 shots at this tournament, hasn't scored yet. There are other players sitting on that bench maybe to get a go. Paul Pogba, very average performance from him today, no doubt. Mbappe, his usual sharp self, influential in the goal. Griezmann, of course, getting the equaliser. I thought overall poor performance from him as well. And it was a real shame to see Ousmane Dembele come on, look exciting, but then just going off injured again, falling away from things as ever. You know, no matter how good he is as a player, he always falls away from the limelight because of injury, he really does. But this blows group, I want to say it's Group F. This blows Group F. I think it's Group, is it Group F? Why do I want to say Group F? It is Group F. It blows it absolutely wide open, with Portugal and Germany kicking off very, very soon indeed. We'll actually put that up on the screen, the group, so you can see that right now in front of things as that comes up on the screen. France still top, of course, but if Portugal get the victory over, if Portugal get the victory over Germany, Germany could be facing elimination. They could be facing elimination, which would be absolutely sensational. It would be sensational, no doubt about it whatsoever. I want to go to your live comments. We're going to open up the lines for you to come on and have your say. But admin, as ever, hit the like button, whatever platform you're watching on. Make sure you're subscribing or following whatever platform you're watching on. And on top of that, retweet if you're on Twitter. Follow, as I mentioned, if you're on Twitch. Share, like, and make sure you turn on that bell notification button if you are watching on YouTube. We had a super chat here on YouTube that says F1 car more like horse and buggy today. Salia, man of the match. Listen, I think so many talented players I don't say talented, so many good performances today from the Hungarians as a collective. Players that most of us are not overtly familiar with, but it was great to see them play as a unit, that togetherness. The celebration was absolutely outstanding as well. They obviously run to a corner. It was like they knew the people. Maybe they were Hungarian correspondents they're aware of. They seemed to be sort of we know you by the way they ran there. But that passion, and in fairness, it was a couple of errors that led to the goal. Letting the ball bounce is a big no-no. Poor clearance really after a good Mbappe cross. And they mopped it up, France. And you thought then maybe Hungary would capitulate. I think also a lot of people owe Portugal an apology today, because Portugal the other day were ridiculed. They were slagged off. They were laughed at. They're not a good team. Awful manager, awful system. They had to wait right to the end to score their goals. France, best team in the world champions, favourites to win this tournament, couldn't break them down to get in the lead at all. So I think and this is why it's important to watch these second and third games. How good are people actually? And so far right now, Italy the only team, and Belgium. Well, Italy the only team to impress for the full 90 minutes in both games. Belgium a game and a half. Outside of that, it's open. It's open right now. No other team for me has been brilliant. so far, including France. They're still the favourites, no doubt. But as I say, it blows Group F wide open. It blows around the last 16 wide open because nobody expected France to drop points today. Zane here says, where was Pogba? KDB, clear of Pogba, no competition. Do you know one thing that's really frustrated me during these tournaments is this weird narrative that Pogba performs for France dramatically better than he does for Man United. No, he had an average game today. He's had an average game for United. He was brilliant in the game against Germany, but he's brilliant in that exact same way in many games for Man United. I think what it is, a lot of people love Pogba, but they don't love him in a Man United shirt. So they slag off his performances there. And when he's in a France kit, they want to they over egg it in many ways. They put so much energy on how much better it is. But Man United fans all sit there just sort of scratching their heads thinking it's the same guy performing in the same way. He's just surrounded by better quality in the French team. It's as simple as that. Let's have a look at a few things here. Someone says, Terry, you were allowing the narrative the other day. Well, I allow people to come in here and say what they want to say. We don't control people's speech here at the Terrace. You can come on and say what you want. I'm not going to challenge every opinion that every person has. Otherwise, I would never get around to saying what I've got to say. I blame today's result on Pogba. Isn't accurate. I wouldn't blame it on Pogba. I mean, he wasn't great today, but no one in the French team was great today. There isn't a single player that you look at and say was great. Not one of them. Not a single player was great today. They had 14 shots. Okay, not too bad. How many on target? Only 4 on target. 6 shots today from Kylian Mbappe. Only 1 on target. Like, he didn't have a great game as a goal scorer. It wasn't good from him. And I think today serves as a reminder to people that I know don't watch European football on a regular basis. World-class players don't play brilliantly in every single game. We've gone through this period of football where we have this weird expectation that the best players in the world are the best players in the world every single game. They're not. That isn't what consistent looks like for anyone ever. Players have off games. Players have poor days, always. That is why I know that people that claim to watch European football with great regularity are liars, because they always say Mbappe plays well every week. Dembele is brilliant every week. Kimmich is brilliant every week. They're not. How do we know this? Because no footballer ever has been in the history of football. Liars. Lies. Lies is what it is. Do me a big favor and hit that like and that share button. Bad news that I've mentioned, though, for England. England could now be facing France in the last 16. If Portugal win their last 2 games, they may. We don't know. It's going to become a shootout between France and Portugal. And I'm telling you now, well, it depends. Germany could beat Portugal today. But either way, they could miss out on that top spot now, France, and it could be bad news for England. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Terry is the biggest fraud online. Oh, then why do you watch every stream then, bro? Listen, you're never going to be able to rattle me with that kind of banter. It's honestly, it's not even key stage 1. It's kindergarten. Come on, bro. That is like 2-year-old nose wiping level banter. It's dead, bro. Go away, come back, try again. You want me to lend you a pen? You can go and maybe practice and writing them down. What one sounds better? What one you think is going to rattle me? Terrible attempts at banter. Minus crack, they would say in Ireland. Atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Try again, though. My guy. Try again. Talk about Harry Kane. Again, that's even worse, brother. That is even worse. That's even worse. Like, that's going to upset me. Wow. We're going to start going to calls now. We're going to get Igal on with us first. We're going to share the link to call in on the Discord server. We're going to put it in the StreamYard call-in link section. And I'm going to post it. So if you're not part of our Discord, why? That's the first question I'm going to pose to you all. I'm going to do that. I'm going to share this. That's now posted on Discord. You can go and check that out right about now, people. I'll also post it in the live comment section below if you don't have, because you may not have, or you may not use it as an example. Sorry, why give haters attention? Every now and then, it's nice just to have a little chat with them. I actually feel for feel for the haters. I feel like the haters needed just a big hug, a really big cuddle. Bless their hearts, and they're only here because they love me. Terry, just Eminem, the poor lad. I listen every now and then. I'll give him a little bit of attention. It's coming home, lads. Listen, I'm annoyed with my country. I'm still saying it's coming home. You've got to back your team. You've got to back your team. What's the big question that we're going to pose to you today? I'm actually not sure yet. I'm deliberating what that should be. But if you're watching on Twitter, please retweet and like. If you're watching on Twitch, please hit the follow button or subscribe over there. If you're here on YouTube, subscribe, turn on the bell notification buttons. We're going to go to calls now. Egal, France fan, is up next. Just as embarrassed and just as humbled as the English yesterday. Poor result against a team that one of the lowest ranked teams at the competition. What's your thoughts, bro?
We did the same thing against Switzerland in 2016. We did the same thing in the World Cup against a team. I forget exactly who it was against, but I remember we drew in the group stages, and we've drawn in the group stages in the last two tournaments, and we've gotten to a final in both of them. So I'm not worried. It's not a worry. But one thing that is worrying, we keep missing sitters. Benzema missed a sitter. Kylian Mbappe missed two sitters. We even had an easy header at the end of the game. We're constantly missing chances. And you know what? It's just like, if you don't finish your dinner, this is what's going to happen. Football is about small margins. And at the end of the day, this team is still great. Great teams still drop points. So let's not forget that. That's all I'm going to say.
Listen, I agree with you. Like, the thing with France is, because France have won a lot of trophies in the last 20 years of football, compared to their peers, as an example, because they've won a lot of trophies. There really isn't this fear or concern when they have a game like today. They can turn it back on, as an example, but it blows the group wide open. In fact, it could end up. I mean, I suppose from a France point of view, if you look at England's group right now, it's hard to say who's going to go through in second place. It actually is really, really difficult. Even if the Czechs lose, they could still go through second. Who would you rather play in the next round, England or the Czech Republic?
I'd rather play the Czech Republic at the end of the day, even though Czech Republic are a team that got to the final. They got to the final last time.
No, Croatia got to the final.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh, the World Cup. I mean,
yeah, I was talking about Croatia. Sorry, you're talking about Croatia, right?
Well, Croatia only have 1 point. The Czechs, the Czechs are on 4.
I don't know why I was thinking about Czech. I don't know who's on the Czech Republic besides the striker, who scored the wonder goal, and the guy who plays for West Ham. So I don't know how good of a team they are.
And that's the thing. That's the one thing about your defeat today. It could end up leading to you having England in the next round. Which would that be a concern for you playing England in the last 16?
You'd obviously want to win, come top your group, but even if you come second, you have to look at who else finishes on the other side of the bracket. If we get a side of the bracket that doesn't have Italy, and that's just going to help us out a lot more. So I'd rather us finish top the group, because I don't want to face Italy in the. If I want to see a route to winning the whole tournament, you want to see the route with the best odds of winning, and you don't want to see Italy on your side. You don't want to see Germany on your side, because now we're gonna have Germany on. We're gonna have whoever finishes third in our group. We're gonna have whoever comes second in your group. If we finish second, if we finish first, right? But if it's the other way around, we're gonna have Italy in there. We're gonna have Belgium in that side. It's just gonna be a lot harder.
I think you personally want to avoid England as well, because you're the favourites for it. But if England was to knock you out, the banter for you would be unbelievable.
I get that, but you also have to look at it this way: we're still undefeated in what, two or three major. No, yeah, it's basically 2 major tournaments where we're still undefeated at this point. You can look at the negatives. You could say, you know what, we played bad, but we also changed it up. We brought in Lucas Digne. Lucas Hernandez did not start. And the attack was just, I don't know what he was doing with Rabiot. Rabiot should not have played this game. He should have gone with the double pivot of Kante and Pogba, and Griezmann in behind the striker, with Dembele starting on the left. I mean on the right. That would have made it a lot more calmer. It just
a poll that we put out, the big question we put out to the viewers is, should Karim Benzema be dropped from the starting 11? It's 2 games, lots of shots, no goals. Olivier Giroud, who's the World Cup winning striker, not a prolific goal scorer, but brings everybody else into play brilliantly. Do you think Benzema should be dropped for the final group game against Portugal?
No, I think if anyone should be dropped, it should be Rabiot, and it should be Lucas Digne should get back out of the team, and Hernandez should start. That's what I think. I think we should go back to the team that we played with the first week, but only change I would make is get Rabiot out.
Rabiot out. There we go. Listen,
Dembele is the third highest goal scorer in this team. You do realize that, right? In the
yeah, he looks like he's come off injured though, so I don't know if we'll see him now at the remainder of the tournament. I actually hope it sounds harsh. I hope it's an injury and not that he was dragged off for performing so badly, because his performance was so weird as well. There was some great moments, but he gave the ball away so many times. I swear I counted about 7 times he just needlessly gave the ball away as well. So fingers crossed it's an injury, because that would be less embarrassing. But yeah, Dembele's tournament either way looks like it could be coming to a premature end.
For sure, a team with 6 or 7 world-class players, which people say a lot of these players, they consider them world-class. If we have all those players and they are playing this lackluster, any team can get beat. This is not me just trying to spin it. Any team can get beat. Any team can drop points. It's a knockout tournament. If you get to the round of 16, everyone's fair game. So let's not overreact. And this is not me just backing my team or being delusional. This is France. They've done this in the World Cup. They did this in the Euros, and they're doing it again. And every single time any team has a hiccup, you drop the expectations. That's ridiculous.
Oh, I've not seen anybody say France should not be considered favourites. Still, they're just poor performance today. Igal, thanks very much for coming on, mate, and having your say. Top, man. I appreciate that, my buddy. Thank you very much indeed. Hit that like and share button. Make sure you're voting. 53% of people say yes, Karim Benzema should be dropped from the starting 11 of France. I want your thoughts and feelings. We've got lots of calls to get through here. We're going to go for now. We've got Peterson that's on next. What do you want to say, Peterson?
I was watching the game and I agree. Karim Benzema should be benched. Kylian Mbappe was atrocious today. Both of them were shocking, because the same thing that happened with Portugal in 2016 happened today. To the fact that France were way too much arrogant. Like, the chances that they missed is because they didn't care. It was like, oh, obviously we're going to create another 10 chances or whatever. So that's why they didn't score. Stupid. And if it was Giroud would score that, because I feel Giroud, he knows that he doesn't have any, pressure to perform, unlike Benzema, because everybody thinks that Giroud is crap, whatever, but it's like the second top scorer for France, but nobody seems to know that or whatever. So yeah, Benzema out for me. He can come like maybe in the last 20 minutes or like second half. I don't care, but for now I feel he has way too much pressure on his shoulder. I'm not hating on the guy. I want him to succeed. It's France. Obviously, I want France to win this competition, but way too much pressure because people want to see him fail. So yeah.
Listen, Peterson, great call, great points. Thank you very much for coming on and having your say there. Do you agree with what Peterson has said? Get your comments in. I want to see them come through. Get your member chats in, members. Get your super chats in as well. Next on the show, we're going to go to Govan. He's on the show next. What are you saying, buddy? Who do you support?
Hi, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yeah, yes, I can, bro. What country? What team are you supporting here?
I was supporting France, man. I was like, France should have won the game. They were the best team. They had the better players. Deschamps is not the best manager, but I felt that Rabiot should have not started the game. I thought he should have been benched. I think he should have brought Griezmann into midfield and put Dembele on the right side. And I think they should have probably won that game with ease, man. They had a lot of chances. Benzema missed an absolute sitter. You found that with Mbappe as well. It was just, I don't know how he missed that header. It just should just had the ball in the back of the net. I mean, it's just, you need to take your chances. If at this level to win games, you need to take your chances. If you don't take your chances,
with France today, do you know what I saw? I saw today again brilliant aesthetically pleasing movements and patterns and passing, but it was almost zero end product. Yes, they equalized. that stemmed through 2 bad defensive mistakes rather than overall brilliance. And it was. I heard the commentators say, "Oh, Mbappe looks so sharp today." And I thought, yeah, he looks sharp. He looks alert. He's on it. But his finishing was awful. And for me, I'm not saying write France off. I'm not saying let's start playing down how good Mbappe is. But they deserve criticism like any other player and a player and team. And today they just weren't at the rate. They can't afford too many more performances like this in this tournament, because as they get to the stage, as we all know, it's knockouts, and they don't, because for France, anything other than a final, I think, is an underachievement. My guy, thank you for coming on and having your say. I really appreciate that. Top man. Thank you. Next up with us here, Lamin is in the house. What you saying, buddy?
Yes, Terry, man. Watching that game, I feel like France only got themselves to blame for not winning the match. The first half, they were completely dominant in that first half. And then second half, basically, they just fell off, really. But you got to give Hungary credit for their performance. The whole Benzema thing, should he be dropped or not? I think it should be. And only because, to me, there is an equally world-class striker on the bench for France, who is very underrated, in my opinion, in Olivier Giroud. And the situation is different for England, where we say, should Kane be dropped? If Kane is dropped for England, then Calvert-Lewin is coming, and that's not really on the same level. So whereas for France, you got Olivier Giroud, he's 5 goals away from like beating your record. Then I rate Benzema, but if he's not performing, you got to drop him and bring him on, really. And I actually think that Giroud would have taken the chances for France, and like they would have been like 1 or 2-0 up by the time they get to half time. But I'm not worried about France. I think regardless of whoever they face the next round, they will go through. Let's just hope that it's not England, and you just expect them to go far, really.
First thing, nice t-shirt. I like it. Same one. Second thing, Olivier Giroud, world class. Did you just say he's world class?
In my opinion, he's very underrated. Like, just look at his numbers. Like, you don't get to basically near enough like beat Henry's record for France international level. And I don't think that people actually appreciate the things that he does, because he doesn't have the pace. You give Olivier Giroud pace, he will become, in my opinion, one of the top strikers in the world. Like, when it comes to his finishing ability, it's next to none, in my opinion. And he's just very underrated because he's not pleasing to look at. But I would say he's world class. I mean, which striker would you say has a better finishing ability than Giroud? Like, right now, one-on-one chances, who would you put your money on to actually put that to put it away? There's not many strikers out there that I would
in the world, or French.
In the
world, I mean, Lewandowski, Harry Kane, Haaland. Those three, off the top of my head, those three would go in front of him as an example. World class, I think world class might be a little bit of a push. He's a top class player, though. I do agree that Olivier Giroud, he's never been respected enough, in my opinion. Not when he was at Arsenal. I don't think he gets enough credit at Chelsea. I thought that he was even overlooked during France's World Cup reign. I thought he was arguably the most important player when it came to how their attacks work, because he was that kind of centerpiece where he weren't scoring the goals, but he just brought everybody else into play. So I do agree he's a top level player. I think world class might be a bit of a stretch, but I think France need to maybe look at going with him for the next game just to see how it works, because right now with Benzema in the line, they're not looking great as an attacking team when it comes to the most important element, scoring goals. He just looks slightly off the pace. My bro, listen, I appreciate you coming on, having your say, Lamin. Speak to you again soon. Top man. Olivier Giroud, world class, Lamin says. What's your thoughts? What are your feelings? Get your comments in now, ladies and gentlemen. I wanna hear you. Right. World class, top class, very good. Where do you rate him? Where do you rate Olivier Giroud? I want to know right now. Next caller on the show with me today is going to be Tom Littles here. What are you saying, Tom?
Credit to Hungary. We saw it for 84 minutes against Portugal, and the goal they got today, that just gave them all the confidence to make sure they got at least a point out of it, which they did. France were poor. I think we all know that, but you've got to give massive credit to Hungary. They worked so hard. They put everything on the line, and they're giving France an issue now because France can't rest players for this last game. They can't risk it. They cannot risk resting players now against Portugal if they want to top the group. So they would have used that game probably if they'd won here and Portugal win against Germany. That would have been a dead game because both teams would have just played second string sides to rest players for the knockouts. Now France can't afford to, and that could come back to bite them in the knockout stages. But on the Benzema thing, I just don't think you can drop him. He's a world-class striker. This is his first time back in the French team in 6 years. It's going to take a little bit of acclimatisation. There's not many players in that French team who you'd rather have a chance fall to in the box. And I say it so many times, but these tournaments are defined by moments. And Karim Benzema has the ability to create them moments or be at the end of their moments and score them.
Mate, I hear you on. I do hear you on that. I think it's a conundrum. I don't think it looks great right now, but as you say, he is world class. It's undeniable. I think I mentioned Olivier Giroud being underrated. I actually think, and I've always felt this, that Benzema, maybe it's because of when he was at Real Madrid, and Real Madrid were in their pomp with Ronaldo, Bale. There's always players that was sort of taking the limelight, and he wasn't really sort of one of the main characters really or protagonists in that team. But it's just something that looks a little bit off with their attack at the moment. And, maybe the thing is, the scary thing about France is they're going to go through to the last 16 no matter what. They haven't peaked yet. You could argue about Italy. I was listening to a podcast last night where someone said maybe Italy are peaking a little bit too early. It's often better to start off a little bit slower and be playing your better football later on down the line. England fans don't get overexcited when that's being said, by the way. We don't include England in any sane talk because we're not winning it. But I think it's an interesting. I do think they need to rotate regardless, though, because they can't be playing their strongest team 3 games running and then 5 days later, playing a knockout game. I think they could be exhausted, especially with the heat that's being done. So maybe it's a good opportunity to rotate. They're not going to go out of the tournament now they're on 4 points, as an example. And if Portugal beat Germany today, it's all but certain that they go through in second place. So it'll be an interesting one to see how that pans out, really, really and truly. I just want a quick word with you about Dembele. He went off. I don't know if you've seen any further reports.
I think he was injured. He looked like he was holding his thigh when he was coming off.
Yeah,
I don't think he brought him off. I thought he was quite good when he came on. Very direct, for the Griezmann goal. He made a great run, dragging a defender out the way. I think he gave him that spark, but it's just he's never going to reach his potential because when he'll have bad form, then he'll find it, and you're like, oh, there it goes. Now it's the time, and then it's an injury, and you're back to step one. It's wasted potential, which is so annoying because at Dortmund, especially at Dortmund, that season he was there, he looked so good. It's just sad to see the way it's panned out.
And we've seen it happen many times. Listen, different kind of player. Michael Owen should have gone on to break England's goal-scoring record, should have gone on to smash all types of domestic goal-scoring records, but injury, and then just faded away as a football player. Tom, thanks for coming back on, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate it, my man. Thank you very much indeed. KJ still to come on the show. We've got Leaf still to come. We've got Pav still to come. We've got Zion on the way. But first up, we've got Jersey Boy on the show. Welcome. What do you say, buddy?
So first of all, just so people know, I support England and France because my dad's English, my mum's French. So I thought today was quite average for France. I thought Rabiot was, I don't know what he was doing, giving away fouls all the time. Pavard was getting spun all the time, and I kind of think the formation that Deschamps goes with does not work. I before the tournament started would have preferred 4-2-3-1 with Dembele on the right hand side and Mbappe on the left. Because I don't think Mbappe is a striker.
You don't think he's a striker? You think he's more of an inside forward?
Yes, no, on the wing. I think he's much better on the wing than playing up front. And I think much better if he played it on the left.
Who would be the striker to start centrally? A lot of call for Benzema to lose his position. Would you keep Benzema in, or would you go with the World Cup number 9, Olivier Giroud?
It's very hard. I really trust Benzema because he's been so brilliant for Real Madrid. Giroud obviously is great for France because he's nearly about to get top scorer for France. But it's Benzema's first competition in I think a very, very, very long time. But I just think if you deployed the wingers in the 4-2-3-1, I think you would feed Benzema much better. But I just don't think the two up front with Griezmann just behind works. I think 4-2-3-1 would be much better.
There we go. Listen, if you agree with Jersey Boy, let us know. Thank you for calling in, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate it, mate. All the best to you. Thank you much indeed. Next on the show, we're going to so many people to get on here. Slens is with us. What you saying, mate? How you doing, buddy?
Yes, bro. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. What did you make of the French performance today? Benzema, people are calling for his position. What are you saying?
Here's what I'll say, yeah. So, you see with Giroud, I actually commented this, yeah. I think the problem with him is that when you start him regularly, you kind of understand why he doesn't start games. But when he doesn't start, he comes on and he scores goals. So sometimes you just have to accept a player for what he is. He is just a second option who can come on and he can change the game. But once he starts a game, he doesn't have the same effect. I think because he's such an old school kind of striker, honestly, like he occupies defenders in a way that Benzema wouldn't. So for me, like the difference between Benzema and Giroud are too much. Like Benzema is a much better player, he's a much better striker, he's world class, and Giroud isn't quite there yet. So no, I wouldn't drop Benzema personally. I think if you're talking about link-up play, Benzema can do what Giroud does. And if you're asking for a striker to be clinical, Giroud is not clinical. We've known this for years. Like he was the main striker at Arsenal in his prime, and the Arsenal team struggled. So it's not a thing like where Giroud would come in and be more clinical. I just think if Benzema finds his feet, especially in the knockout rounds, it will transform France because we've seen this guy every single time Benzema in the biggest moments for Real Madrid show up. I expect France, just like the last World Cup when they struggled in the group stages, they drew one game and they won 2 by 1 goal, to come in the knockouts and perform a lot better. So I'm sticking it with Benzema and bringing on Giroud when need be. That's what I'm doing.
I think that's a fair point. I think, obviously Lamine talking about him being world class. I don't see that. There are a lot of better finishers out there in football than Olivier Giroud. Otherwise, he'd been leading. I mean, Arsenal got rid of him because he didn't score enough goals. And I know there's always that banter because he's gone on to win a lot of trophies at Chelsea, but he's not really been overtly influential. He's had games in those moments and scored some goals, but he's never really been the shining star.
He's influential, Terry, but it's not for 90 minutes. Like he's influential when he comes off the bench. Do you know what I mean? That's just what he is. Accept him for what he is. Like with all due respect to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like he's an incredible striker, but what made him so great is that he transforms games from the bench. But starting-wise, there was better options. That's all it was. Accept it for what it is.
Mate, I hear you on that completely, yep. Slens. Thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate that, my guy. Top man, thank you. Next up, KJ's here with us. What you saying, buddy?
Oh, I think I've seen the best celebration of the entire tournament. The way that the Hungary players went over that poor lady. She was there with the microphone chilling, and boom, this guy just comes, slams the table, clears from the bottles. It was a wonderful, wonderful scene, and that's why I love tournament football. Like the roar of those Hungry fans was beautiful. The celebrations, the passion, the energy. It was all wonderful, man. But yeah, France, disappointing performance. After listening to what everyone was saying, Deschamps, maybe I think got the starting lineup wrong. Maybe Rabiot shouldn't have started. Maybe he should have stuck with Hernandez. But the difference between, say, yesterday's England game with Southgate and today with Deschamps is that Deschamps made his changes early. He made them positive, made positive changes, and he tried to win the game. And the players, I feel like maybe they thought the game had already won. You know what I mean? Like, the game's already won. We can do whatever we want. We can play as slowly or as poorly as we need to, and we'll still win the game. And I feel like that's the difference between the two managers, and that's why with Deschamps, I would say he tried. You can say he tried fully to get the best out of that situation. But yeah, man, moving forward, France will be okay. France will be fine. This is probably one of their blip games where they just need a reality check. They wake up again and they go Hungary again, because they're playing Portugal next to try and top the group. And then after that is knockout football, and you know what they're like in those situations. So 2 finals in the last 2 tournaments. So yeah, I'm fine with. I think they'll be fine in the end. And then the question of Benzema and Giroud, I think there's a lot of tension going on between the strike force right now, like behind the scenes. You've already heard of Giroud and Mbappe's arguments. Benzema, he's coming in after how many years? The pretense of why he left was a bit sketchy. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things going on in that strike force, and I feel like that might be affecting the play. So dropping Benzema, will it help? Potentially not, because you're going to be playing. It's going to be Giroud up top. Is Giroud and Mbappe's relationship going to be affected by that and their game time? We don't know. You could not start Giroud or Benzema and play with Mbappe up front with like Lamar and Coman on the wings. Like he could mix it up, but I don't think Deschamps will. I think Deschamps will stick with Benzema, and I feel like I heard what Tom was saying about, but Benzema's world class, but Kane's world class. You need them on the pitch, but that made me think: where are Hungary's world class players? Where are North Macedonia's world class players? Where are Scotland's world class? Ryder Cup Robertson, so he's world class. But you know what I mean? Where are these smaller nations' world class players? They're not. Some of them are not even existent. And tournament football is more about the collective. Yes, moments are important, but the collective as a whole is more important. So that's why I feel like I think managers in international football should be braver. Don't start Harry Kane. Don't start Benzema. You know what I mean? Make those risks and get the collective playing.
Sir Alf Ramsey, for all the youngsters watching, Sir Alf Ramsey was the England manager who won the World Cup, said that he never picks his best players, he picks his best team. And it's interesting because the Olivier Giroud thing brings things up. I understand what Slens was saying about Giroud being very impactful from the bench. And I'm sitting here reflecting on that, and I'm like, okay, club level, definitely. Is he a better finisher than Benzema? No. But I go back to my original thought, and I'm sticking by it. The last World Cup, the way the team worked off of him being in that position was better. I look at England. We don't know what we're going to look like with Calvert-Lewin leading the line with all the other players around him. Maybe with the way Southgate has us playing, it will just click better for whatever reason, as an example. And I just sort of feel like we saw France at the World Cup 3 years ago. They looked brilliant. Benzema's come back in, so he's kind of disrupted that front line, and that isn't a negative. It's them trying to get people rethinking, and it hasn't quite clicked yet for me. I don't think it would be an atrocious idea in the next game against Portugal to try Olivier Giroud in that position to see if it works better, because if it does, it then gives there's then a decision to make. Do we go back to what wasn't working or stick to what we know has worked at previous tournaments and has then just gone and worked in this decisive game? So I would go with it, and I completely agree. The majority of Benzema's game is better than Olivier Giroud. I think Benzema is a better striker than Olivier Giroud. But at the last World Cup, him starting games and being part of that front line made France a better team. And I'll quote Sir Alf Ramsey: you pick your best team, not your best players, and it's, sometimes we put square pegs in round holes, or maybe just the way Benzema plays isn't, they do it on FIFA where you have the connection, don't you? The kind of chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah.
That kind of exists in real life. Maybe the chemistry between the front three now just doesn't work as a collective group. And it's going to take an Olivier Giroud to bring the best out of everybody. The whole unlocking thing, which actually is a true thing. It's needed in football. Do you know what I mean? But there we go. Listen, Cage, top man, thanks for coming on, having your say. Speak to you soon. Thank you. Next on the show, Pav is with us. What are you saying, Pav?
All right, man. This France team, the problem with this France team at the moment is they've got so many superstars in that team. Every single one of them players in that midfield, barring Kante, and up top, that everything has to be spectacular with them. They're passing, they're shooting. You need to start playing it simple. You don't have to go for all these spectacular things like Benzema. I agree. I don't agree with what everyone said about Giroud. That guy's got a proven track record for scoring for France. And what Benzema's come into this squad after how many years? And he's playing for them, and he's acting so cocky in press conferences, in interviews. like Giroud, like you got Digne playing left back who's been whipping in crosses. Them crosses are landing to that turtle head Mbappe, and it's not even going on target. Like if that's Giroud, what are people telling me that Giroud won't get one of those headers on target? That guy will literally get some of those crosses on target. You've got all them crosses and nothing's working for them, and then you're playing Rabiot as well. Do you really need three of those midfielders against Hungary? You could sit there with Pogba and Kante. You could have started someone off with someone like Ousmane Dembele or Lamar instead. I'm not sure what's going on with this team. Didier Deschamps needs to sit them players down, and he needs to lay the rules, because a lot of them are just doing what they want. This is why everyone who was saying France are going to be the winners is like based off what talent. You got teams like Italy who perform as a team. It's a team game. It's in this tournament. It's not about these individuals. Like Mbappe, he hasn't really lit up anything. He had that little moment today where he bullied the defender off, but he didn't get the assist to come off one of the defenders. He hasn't really lit anything up. Ronaldo's done more for that Portugal team than any of these individuals are for this France team at the moment. I think this France team, people are overrating them so much because of the players they've got. If they keep acting this way, they're not going to win this tournament. It's like I said, it's going to be a team effort, and people shouldn't have counted out certain teams in this tournament. I think it's an open race for whoever for that cup. But yeah, I mean, Giroud really needs to be starting that last game against Portugal, and if you're going to sit there playing Digne again, with his crossing ability, like you need Giroud in that. You need Giroud up top.
There we go. Listen, Pab, thank you for coming on and having your say. Viewers, do you agree with what he was saying there about the French team, their current setup and how they're performing, behaving, maybe risking going out of this tournament earlier than many people expected? Give us your views and give us your opinions. 53% of people in the vote are still saying that Benzema should be dropped from the starting 11. Next up on the show, we're going with Zion. What are you saying, Zion?
You're right, Terry.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. What do you want to say?
You know what? As people want to say about individuals here, football's a team sport. Let's be real. It's a team sport. Mm-hmm. You got to rely on everyone. Your goalkeeper, your defenders, your midfielders, and your strikers. So, you can't rely on one person. You can't rely on, your attackers. You can't rely on... You basically got to rely on the entire team to work through this. So, take Italy, for example. They're not relying on, Immobile. They're not relying on Insigne. They're a team. They're relying on the entire team. Look at Jorginho, in that midfield. Basically, I think football's a team sport, and you put Giroud in that team. I think in the World Cup, his link-up play with with Mbappe and Griezmann worked. Benzema is a top quality striker. He's a world-class striker. He's a better finisher. And you've seen that with him at Real Madrid. But at France, he hasn't clicked because he's just come back for so long. After so long, being away from the national team. Giroud's been there in major tournaments with France, and, they know how to work. He knows how to work with, Mbappe and Griezmann. They've got that connection. Benzema's going to take time to get that connection going with Mbappe because they don't play, at the same team in the club level as well. Giroud obviously has played with Mbappe and Griezmann for ages for the France national team. You've seen he's been the vocal point for them, and I wouldn't say Giroud's world class. He's very underrated. He's a very underrated striker, and people look past him by just because he's not bagging in goals. He hasn't got that those stats that Benzema has, that Haaland has, that Ronaldo has. They don't look at him like that, but he's that type of player. His link-up play is brilliant. I mean, you saw that when he was at Chelsea, and all that kind of with Hazard. You said that he's not going to be that kind of guy that's going to get you 20 goals in a competition. He's not that type of guy.
But as you say, he might be the person that enables Mbappe and Griezmann to shine, and France play better, score more goals, and win.
Yep.
And I think it needs to be experimented with in the next game. Zion, a great call, mate, as ever. Top man. Thank you very, very much indeed. Just to let everyone know, of course, it is Portugal versus Germany on the way very, very soon. Lineups are out. I think both teams have pretty much picked the same as their previous games, which is certainly interesting from a German point of view. Certainly interesting indeed, as they weren't particularly great in that last match. That Danilo, William Carvalho double pivot, twin sixes or whatever you want to call it for Portugal was very slow and lethargic in the last game, but no changes have been made whatsoever. Of course, Diego Jota is going to want a better game. He was very poor in the last match. Ronaldo, of course, now closing in on becoming the highest goal-scoring international football player in the 150-plus year history of international games, which would be incredible. I doubt he's going to score a hat-trick tonight and beat it, but who knows? You'd never write him off, would you? You'd never write him off. Next on the show, we're going to Latimer's Prime. What are you saying, bro?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in response to what was said about Giroud being world-class. I think in terms of Giroud's particular attributes that allows him to excel, so in terms of him being a target man, his link-up play, the fact that he can turn up clutch in certain big game moments, I think in those certain attributes that he has, that he excels in, he's world-class in that bracket. But in terms of France and who should be starting, yes, he should clearly be ahead of Benzema. You don't just... The thing is, Benzema is not like he's been part of previous France squads. He was just called up for this tournament, and even in the friendlies, he didn't even play that well. So it doesn't make sense to just automatically chuck him in and throw him in. Like, if this happened to England and Southgate did something weird like this, just brought up a random player and was playing him in these past two group games, you guys would all be going mad. I think it's equally as fair to be saying this with France. But Benzema hasn't. I know he's a world-class striker and what he's done for Real Madrid, but he hasn't earned the right to start for this France squad. So yeah,
I think this is. Oh, we're getting a lot of feedback there. You're obviously not using your earphones, which is weird. Also, there's no point having earphones. You can't. Where are your ears?
because I was actually listening to something else. So sorry.
I'm only winding you up. I'm just joking because you're on your head. I'm just being an old man. I get you. I think there is that element of maybe there is some issues in the France dressing room. Maybe there is some issues amongst the camp, not because of Benzema the person, but just hang on. You brought somebody in who's not been involved for years. We've been winning. We've been brilliant, and it's almost disrupted the harmony a little bit. You can sometimes, it's not like France haven't had in-camp issues in the past. And listen, as an England fan, and I'm sure the Italians and the Germans and the Portuguese and everybody involved wants there to be a ruckus in the camp and for it to fall apart, because it's good news for everybody else for that to happen. So it's going to be intriguing to see how that plays out, no doubt about it. Listen, Prime, thanks for calling in and having your say. Really appreciate it, buddy. Top man. Next caller, we're going to go to Ziad. Ziad, welcome back to the terrace. What do you want to say, buddy?
Hello, Terry. Just a few points. First of all, big credit for Hungary. I thought they did well against Portugal and incredibly well today against France. Two of the top favourites to win the Euros. But I really want to comment on this Giroud. Is it Giroud when he plays his best? It's when he's got fast players around him. You said it yourself in the World Cup. He did, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't score a goal, but yet he brought the best of the players around him. It's no coincidence that when he was Hazard was at Chelsea, Hazard played his best when Giroud was up front. It's because his main game is to bring the attackers into the game, to bring the left winger, right winger into the game, and let them do their brilliance. And what better person to have up front when you've got Mbappe next to you, when you've got Griezmann next to you, and obviously credible players on the bench as well. But Benzema hasn't offered anything individually or for the team in the last couple of games. So why not bring in a player that's known for bringing the best out of the players around him, that's known for having a goal in him? When the fullbacks are the main style of play these days, and to cross it in, there's no better person to have in the box for aerial duels, for even for corners to get rid of the player, and then Mbappe to run out defense on a counter attack. There's so many different aspects to where Giroud is really good at, and of course Benzema is a world class striker. Like overall, he's got better finishing Giroud. But let's not forget, Giroud can score a goal. Giroud can score a worldie. We've seen many aspects of his game where he's in the air scoring a goal, left foot, volley, first time, touch, plays in the other attacker. That's why I feel like this would be a good way for France. I don't personally want France to win, but I think if they really want to fly through this Euros, because I think they will if they get the team right, bring Giroud.
Mate, fair points being made there. I don't think people have... There are so many benefits to him, and as I've said already, I agree with your points. I don't want to reiterate things I've already said. But in the next match, I think it needs to be given a go. You don't want to be going into those into the knockout rounds with your front line, not knowing, there's an opportunity here. You're pretty much through on 4 points. I don't think it really matters for France whether they win the group or not. They're the favourites in every single game they play. I asked the gal earlier in the show, who would you prefer, the Czechs or England? Of course you prefer the Czechs. They are easier on paper. But France should smoke England, the Czech Republic, Croatia, or Scotland. Whoever they play in the next round, they should be ripping apart. Do you know what I mean? So if they play any of those teams, they should be beating them hands down. Listen, Ziad, thanks very much, mate, for coming on. Really good points being made there. Thank you. Let's have a look at some of these comments here. David says, come on, people. Make sure you're hitting that like button, people. Make sure you're hitting that like button for us now. Let's get this past 300 likes. That'd be amazing. Thank you very much indeed. Target men that are forgotten is what Blue Moon has got to say. Giroud and Lukaku are perfect strikers. Let's go to a few more of these comments here. Some of you are not talking football, so I'm trying to find the football ones. Giroud came in during the friendly game before the tournament and he scored 2 goals. What else are we looking at here? What other comments? Some of these comments are wild today. Germany were the better team versus France. They had good approach play, but I felt that France obviously got their goal, especially, and then tried to play on the counter. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from. Listen, everyone that's tuned in today, a massive thank you to each and every one. I know we've still got lots of people backstage, but we will get to speak to you more. We're going to be live after Germany versus Portugal, so make sure you come back to the Football Terrace. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.